Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video, man. It means a lot that you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And today, we're going to be talking about my favorite player from every Survivor season. So I've talked about the best player, in my opinion, from each Survivor season. I've talked about the best female player also, and I've also talked about the best male player from every season. So I have those three videos, but I haven't done a video on my favorite season, or sorry, my favorite player slash character from every season. So this is just my favorite person to watch. This isn't necessarily a person I would want to come back. This isn't necessarily the best player, not necessarily the best character, but just the player that I enjoy the most, just as a person. And so yeah, it's really just based off who they are as a person. So yeah, I think it's a pretty simple idea. We're going to go through every single season. And yeah, I mean, the 75% of you guys who are watching this video aren't subscribed. Let's change that. It's easy and it's free. And if that's it, let's get into this video. Season one is easy. It's easy. It's rich. It's rich. I mean, if it's not an argument that he's the best player, and it's definitely not an argument that he's the most entertaining player. I mean, the closest one and entertainment wise is Rudy, and I mean, I love Rudy, but like not that much. Rich is easily takes the season for his witty remarks and over cockiness. Now lately, that's gotten pretty annoying in real life, but on this season, it works perfectly. Season two, I have. Um, I'm gonna go with Tina, only because I don't really like Colby. I don't like him, especially his Heroes vs Villains games. They really turn me off to him, honestly. And there isn't much other choices. Yeah, honestly. I mean, I would say Varner, but and Alicia's just not my cup of tea. I wouldn't like her in real life. Roger and Elizabeth, I despise people who don't make the move when it's easy to make the move, and they could have tried to swing Amber over. So yeah, I mean, it seems like a pretty like there's not really another choice, honestly, for this one. Season three, I'm gonna go with Lex. I think that Lex is the best player in the season, and I think that Lex is the most entertaining character in the season. I think Lex is overall just the best on the season. Period. Um, his overarching domineering, pre Boston Rob, but like Boston Rob type of play, which is hilarious. But how it ends up in All Stars, but yeah, he plays like a Boston Rob, except more like freaked out. When he gets paranoid after the Kelly vote. That's super fun to watch. And he's also just like, again, this season doesn't have a lot of big game players, and that's kind of what I like to watch. And Lex is the only one, really, aside from Ethan, who does have a pretty good, specifically a pretty good pre-merge, but also a pretty good post-merge. Because Ethan's kind of bland as a character, I would go with Lex because he's a little more intricate as a character and more of an anti-hero instead of just a hero like Ethan is. Season four, this is very easy. I'm going to go with Boston Rob. I love Kathy. I love Kathy, right? But the thing is, when I feel like people always, oh yeah, Boston Rob season he wasn't that good. He wasn't that. This is the most boring. No. In that 3 episode span where Boston Rob from the Hunter boot to the merge boot, which is his boot, is fantastic TV, especially his confessional where he's like sitting against a tree and he's talking about the Godfather. Oh my god, it's like iconic. That's what they tried to chase. When I will hear interviews like on YouTube from the players that they got casted between like seasons 6 to like I'd say around 10ish, maybe 11. The production was always like, oh, like, do you know about Boston Rob? You know about Boston Rob? Yeah, like, oh, you should watch Boston Rob. Like, they like tried to chase this type of player over and over again until they were able to bring him back for All Star. So like specifically in season 6 and 7, I remember Rob and Fairplay saying that they were asked to like look at Boston Rob's season and like the because like production wanted to get that again, and I can agree with production here. Boston Rob in that episode span was amazing to watch. Season five, I'll go with Clay. Just he seems like a more likable person versus Brian, who just seems kind of cold. Um, Clay snoring hilarious. I mean, it just like I think Clay's overall probably the more entertaining character, but there isn't really an entertaining character because it's Thailand. So yeah, continuing on with seasons that don't suck. Season six easily Rob Cesarino. He might be one of, if not my favorite character of all time in Survivor. I love his mixture of wittiness and actual good gameplay, as well as playing like a new school player in a very very old school season. He plays like it's season 35 when it's actually in reality it's like season 6. I feel like he plays way ahead of his time, and is able to make this season really really good single handedly. And I think his gameplay rubs off on others like Dina and like Jenna, and it made the whole season like a really really good. I think probably the best season to this point. I think Marquesas is the only season that rivals Amazon up until season 7, where obviously Piran's takes the cake there. But he brings this season to probably the best season until up until that point, with the exception of maybe Marquesas. And so I feel like Rob himself really just carry the season. I love his jokes, everything he says, all of his one liners are so funny. And then on top of that, just how good of a player he is, and how dynamic he is. I really wish that he could have won the season and been on Winners at War. I mean, honestly, Rob is just gold, fantastic. Season 7, I'll go with fair play. I mean, there. I mean, it's like I don't like Rupert. I don't really know anyone who likes Rupert who isn't a casual. And as far as like Sandra goes, she really wasn't a character or a good player. The only reason she's known as the queen is because she won twice. And that kind of leaves that, like, those are the big three. So obviously, fair play's the one I'm going to pick. I think fair play plays a slightly less entertaining game than Rob, and a slightly worse game than Rob, but that's still really really good because Rob played a really good game. It was really funny. And so I feel like fair play kind of mooches off of like Rob's style of play and character, but like completely different character that's slightly less entertaining to me, and then also a slightly worse game, but and it wasn't really in his control. But I'd obviously still pick him over like a Burton or something like that as a person. Season 8 again, Boston Rob. I mean, for this season, there really isn't any competitors, because all the people who would probably compete for the spot went out pre-merge. Your Richard Hatch, your Rob's, Sesserninos, blah 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 blah. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious he dominates the entire season gameplay wise. He's a pretty good character. I like his moments where he's like extra villainous, like his confessional where he's like, "You didn't actually believe that, Lex, did you?" And a confession, like, I feel like he gets his evil on. People like underrate his character in this season. People always like, oh, it's his character, and here's versus villains, and in Marquez is when he's like top like character. But I feel like this season he has a lot of villainous character, which I really like. Yeah, no, I feel like this season is built for him. I feel like with Marquesas, Kathy can put up a fight for the spot for my personal favorite player from that season. But for this season, nobody comes close. It's not even close. Season 9, I got Chris. I like Chris's story. I like Chris as a player. I think Chris, right up from the start, he works his way out of a deep hole and is able to get all the young guys off in that tribe with the Fat Five Alliance. Very very smart by him. This is the first time into our history that somebody really recovers from a huge L taken on early on, and then eventually goes on to win. I think his game from the final 7 on is very 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 impressive. And I think his only real gigantic mistake, aside from obviously all of his alliance going out at the start of the merge, but the real mistake with that is that he didn't vote out Julie before the merge, and instead voted out, I think his name is John P or John K or whatever, the vote before the merge. And so then he went into the merge thinking that Julie was going to flip, but she didn't. And so if he had voted her out and kept one of his guys, I believe it would have been 5-5 actually. So yeah, no. Season 10, I'm gonna go with it's between Ian and Tom. I'll go with Tom just because I can respect Tom being a better player than Ian. I will say Ian's probably a better character than Tom, but I can respect Tom's gameplay much more than I can respect Ian as a character. They're both really good, but gameplay comes first. And Tom dominates this season. He does it in a way that like you like even the most casual of casual can't say, oh, like he backstab, because like everyone loves Tom. And he showed in Here's Where Villains that he has the capacity to be a really really good player. I mean, we saw it in Here's Where Villains when he was at Parvati, and that was really really impressive. And I think overall, I have so much respect for Tom's game in Palau that I can definitely pick Tom over Ian. I would go in the end. Season 11, I have a Rafe. I like Rafe. Now, if we're talking about, oh no, actually it's tough because it's Rafe and Stephanie. If we're talking about the player that played the better game, it's Rafe because he played the same game as Stephanie except with better bonds, and he would have beat Stephanie. If we're talking about the better character or the better just overall like person to watch on TV, it's definitely Stephanie. Rafe is too nice. All right, I'll go with Stephanie since they play the same game, but Ray has the better bond. But because Stephanie's more fun to watch, I probably go with Stephanie. She has more of a villain arc, whereas in Rafe has more of a hero arc. Um, I just enjoy watching Stephanie's take on the game more than Rafe's, and Rafe's seems like Rafe plays too good of a game to the point where he does all the dirty work, but still doesn't really show like that villainous side. Whereas in Stephanie does show that villainous side in the season, and so for that reason, I'm going to go with Stephanie. Season 12, I'm going to go Cerie. I mean, this is pretty obvious here. Cerise plays a pretty good game in this season. I think probably her second best behind Micronesia. I think that she plays really well. She goes from being the first boot to being the fourth boot off of fire making, which is super impressive. I think that if she gets to the end, she beats anyone except for Aris and probably Terry. And so that's pretty impressive that you beat everyone in the entire merge, which is 10 people except for the two people. So that's 8 people that. Well, sorry, 7 people that she beats, which is really impressive. And her strategical dominance in the season is fantastic to watch. I mean, when you look at the 3-2-1 vote, it's the first like real hyped up plurality vote. Obviously, there's been plenty of votes that are plurality votes before that, including the first vote ever. But I'm talking about the biggest hyped up, strategically genius plurality vote. Up until that point, she really starts the 3-2-1 or the 4-3-2 trend that starts to go on in the game. I just feel like overall, her game is really impressive in the season, and she's overall a really good character, and she adds a little like lightheartedness to the times in the season where it gets kind of boring. Season 13, I got Yule. It's kind of hard to root for anybody except Yule. Um, I'm rewatching Cook Islands right now. We're on the third episode, and my grandma has already picked Yule as the winner pick and her favorite player. So I think we can tell. I mean, the edit just it makes you just love Yule by the end of the season, and edit specifically in the premiers. The edit really paints Ozzy in a negative light, and so just overall, I just like Yule. Like I feel like what I'm giving of Yule is so much better than Ozzy because it's Yule or Ozzy or Penner really for me. Penner goes out too early, and it's between Ozzy and Yule. And one, I can respect Yule's game tons more, and the edit just buries Ozzy in the pre-merge, and I feel like that gives you like that negative perception. So I feel like overall, yeah, I would definitely take Yule. Season 14, I'm gonna go with Yowman. I like watching Yowman more. I do think that Earl's obviously the better player because he beats Yowman at the end. But I don't think it's that wide of a margin. I do think that it's pretty close player wise, and character wise, it's not even close. It goes in Yowman's direction. Yowman is super fun to watch. He's a super fun underdog. You know, his archetype usually gets voted out like pre-merge, like your like Cowboys and people like that. I feel like he was able to break that usual boot order and is able to get all the way to the end. He fights the idol, which obviously makes him a favorite. He plays the idol correctly, which I really like. It's the first correct idol play in Survivor history, aside from obviously season 11 with Gary Hogaboom. But yeah, no, I feel like overall, yeah, man, it really isn't even close. It's either Earl or Owlman. I guess you could say Dreams, but Dreams doesn't play a good game, and I can't respect that. And and Earl just doesn't have character, so I can't respect that either. So I would have to go with Yao. One, because there isn't many other options, and two, because Yao is just so fun to watch on TV. Season 15, I got China. I'll go with Todd. I mean, the thing is, it's either James, Todd, Courtney, or Amanda. Amanda doesn't have character. Courtney doesn't have a game, and James is a really fun guy to watch. But he gets, I mean, obviously he gets played game wise, so he doesn't really have game either. And that leaves Todd. I feel like a lot of these are kind of come down to just like there's a group of people that are in contention, but they all have flaws except for this one person. Todd is fun to watch. He kind of has like that snarkiness. He's hilarious at times in the season with his impressions and with his overall like just his overall spiteness for his cast, just his genius throughout the entire season, taking out these gigantic threats, playing a pretty good pre-merge games, he's really in control from start to finish, and then his final tribal is fantastic. Really, really masterful way of roping John Robert back in by stroking his ego while also kind of roasting him in the same sense. So yeah, I'm super impressed by Todd's China game, and I think overall he definitely takes the cake for China. Season 16, again, going with Suri. I think she plays the best game in the season, and I think she's close to the best character. If not, it's Suri, with, or sorry, if not, it's Parvati. And because she plays the best game and she's like second place for best character, she definitely gets the best person overall for me on this season. I think she's fun to watch, mildly fun, not super duper like crazy character, but fun to watch on the season. She kind of orchestrates the Ozzy Blind side. She at least helps in the Eric Blind side, which you can't say about Parvati. But yeah, so and then overall, I think she plays the best game. She beats anyone at the end, and she's a really like lovable underdog type figure. Even though in this season she plays overdog for sure. Season 17, I'm gonna go with Randy. This is not a gameplay that type of thing. Randy doesn't beat anyone in the entire post merge except for Sugar. Um, yeah, Sugar, maybe Corinne, maybe, but like I really don't even think he beats Corinne. I think if it's a Sugar, Corinne. Well, no, but then there isn't um that whole yellow like subdivision on the jury where like there's like the four is it codas? I think it's codas. So yeah, I don't know, but Randy definitely does not beat a lot of people in this post merge. He doesn't play up a particularly good social, strategical, or physical game, but he's just so fun to watch as a character. He's such a curmudgeon, and he brings this new like kind of vibe to the game where like nowadays everyone's like trying to be likable and be like the next like next this and that, like the next Parvati and the next JT, just the next like likable whatever, or like the next super villain. Oh my god, Johnny Verplay. Randy's just himself. Like he's cocky at times, he's an asshole at times, but he's just himself, and he's unapologetically himself in a different way. Like a lot of people like I'm unapologetically no, like Randy, like he doesn't do it because like for the phrasing of for like he's not unapologetically himself to be unapologetically himself. He's just unapologetically himself. And I can't even say that word anymore. I'm done. But yeah, so I feel like overall Randy's like he's super real, and I can admire somebody who just is who they are and who can just deal with it, I guess. Season 18, I'm gonna go Fishback. I think Fishback plays the second best game in the season. And as I said in my what's it called, best male from each season. Or wait, was it that or was it? I don't know, but I had said my like I had said when I was talking about the Token Sheen's like best player, whatever. I had really considered picking Steven, but then I remembered it's not that I would. Oh, you know what it is? It's in my who would I vote for a video. I had picked Steven, and you guys were like, "What? Steven didn't play a game that was as good as JT's," and I said I agree. But personally, I just like Steven more, and I would probably relate to Steven more in the moment. Obviously, JT plays the better game socially, probably not strategically, but socially and physically, and that's two out of the three. But because Steven plays a better game strategically, and because he's overall just a more likable person and a person that I can more relate to, versus Jay, obviously I can't relate to JT at all as a person, so I would go with Steven. Season 19, Russell, easy. There's nobody else. He plays a really good game strategically. Arguably one of the best strategical games of all time. Mastering his 4-8 comeback, and he goes from 4-8 to 4-1, and then he takes out one of his own just because Brett. But yeah, no, I think overall it's really impressive. I think his most impressive move of the game, well, his two most impressive moves were the Kelly Charball idol play, and then the John Fincher flip, and then a direct vote out after that flip was super impressive to me, and so that's why I like Russell in this season. Season 20, my personal favorite player from this season personally is Russell again. The only other option is Party, because all of like the players who are like I know like maybe it's Boston Rob, maybe it's no, but they all went out pre-merge, and it's obviously none of the heroes, and so that leaves the villains in the post-merge, which are Sandra, Parvati, Russell, Jerry, and Danielle, and obviously it's not going to be Danielle or Jerry or Sandra, and so that kind of leaves Russell, which in my opinion I would go with Russell over Parvati as a person wise. Like I don't think Parvati brings much character wise. I don't think Parvati has ever really brought much character wise. She's a pretty good confessionalist, and her game kind of speaks for itself. I think that's why she won. Micronesia is because her game just kind of spoke for itself. She didn't give an overly good final tribal, but one, she had Amanda pooping on the floor in Micronesia in the final tribal, and she also had a game that's spoke for itself. And I think it's similar in this season. Her game kind of speaks for itself, and so as a character, she doesn't bring much to the table. Whereas in Russell will always bring so much to the table as a character. And yeah, I know I just really like watching Russell. I mean I know other people hate watching Russell, but I love watching just diabolical villains. It's so fun to me. I always root for the villain, and I find myself sometimes rooting for the overdog just because they're the villain. I love rooting for the villain in a season. It's so fun for me to to root for the villain. Kind of sucks when the villain gets booted out the merge like always, but whatever. And so yeah, season 21, I'll go with Chase. I mean, it's between Brenda and Chase, and because Brenda gets voted out at ninth, it's kind of hard to or it's kind of hard to give it to her. So I'll go with Chase. No, you know what? I'm doing a heel turn. Brenda. I don't like Chase as a character. No, sorry, I don't like Chase as a player. He's very wish washy. He plays emotionally. He tries to do like the whole moral thing. I like Chase as a character because he has like the whole like should I play, should I not, blah blah blah, and like he has the whole like oh all shucks, and he's a pretty good version of that. And he actually does try and play the game at least unlike some country boys. And versus Brenda, who has all of that except she does play the game. She has no qualms about playing the game, and she plays very aggressively, and she's really good in confessional, and she has the perfect balance of hero and villain in her, which I personally can really respect. And so for that reason, I would do Brenda for this season. Season 22. I mean, obviously it's Rob. I mean, next season, coach for South Pacific. I mean, it's for me. It's either Brandon or coach this season. I think they're both really complex characters in this season, and I can both like enjoy their games, not because I enjoy their perspectives on the game in this season, but because I enjoy watching their struggle, even though it's kind of unwarranted. Like the way that this season is like a crazy cold season, and I think Brandon and Coach embody that coldness the most. So it's either Brandon or Coach, and because one coach gets a few episodes farther, I believe one or two episodes farther, and also just because coach has more airtime, I feel like, and also because coach is just the leader of the entire alliance and probably a better player this season, I would probably go with coach for this season. Season 24, obviously it's Kim. Let's move on. Season 25, I'm going with Malcolm. I think for this season it's either Malcolm, Penner, or yeah. I mean, no, I mean, there isn't. I mean, it's either talking about people. It's probably Malcolm, Penner, or Lisa. Penner didn't get far enough. Lisa played I mean, Lisa. I love Lisa as a character, but our game isn't as good as Malcolm's, and I can't respect her as much as an overall player as I can with Malcolm, and so I would go with Malcolm. Season 26. I mean, I guess this is between Cochran, Malcolm, and Eddie. No, sorry, not Eddie. Reynold. I so first of all, Malcolm doesn't make it far enough, and then Reynold. I would say Reynold, but he also doesn't make it far. Like, I think he gets booted one or two votes before the finale, and on top of that, I do see flaws in his game socially. I think he has a kind of an outburst type of thing that like he does like pretty often, which kind of hurts his social game. And I also just like Cochran more, so I'm gonna go with Cochran. There isn't much competition this season because all of the the entire pre-merge boots are just not all at all entertaining because the entire pre-merge isn't entertaining. And post-merge is good, but like it's good for the gameplay, not necessarily for the people who are playing the game. It's kind of the opposite of David vs Goliath, where David vs Goliath, the gameplay is good and the people are like really really interesting. Whereas in with this season, the gameplay is really, really bad at first and then really good, but the players are never good in the entire season, really, for me. Season 27, I'm going to go with Tyson. I mean, I feel like Tyson plays the most dominant game this season, so he's definitely the best player. And I feel like he's probably the best character, too. I think this is the best version of Tyson. The version of Tyson that's trying to win the game is my personal favorite version of Tyson. I feel like it shows his competitive, and it shows all of his little quirks that are actually like pretty useful in the game. And it shows that he really does have a mind for the game. And so for that reason, I would go with Tyson this season. Season 28, it's obviously Tony. He's definitely the best character in the season. He's probably the best player in this season as well. He also wins the season. So this is easily Tony. He's the best in every category for me this season. It isn't even close. I don't even need to go through everything because I talked about this game in an extensive mark. And I'm probably going to do a deep dive on Kagiyan soon. And so, yeah, I really like the season. I really like Tony. And I think Tony makes the season what it is. Obviously, Spencer and Cass are like the other A tier characters on this season, but I feel like Tony is the A plus character on this season. Season 29, I'm gonna go with John. I like John as a character. I think he's a lot more complex than people give him credit for. Obviously, people are always like, "Oh, this and that." Like John's pretty bland. Like I don't like John and Jacqueline, Natalie, Queen, this and that. But I feel like one, John starts playing the game a lot harder before Natalie does, and on top of that, John I think just plays a better game up until he goes home. I think even though Natalie turns it on, I think up until the vote where he went home, he plays the better game than Natalie does, and for that reason, I have more overall respect for him. Worlds apart. Is there a no option on this one? No, I'm just kidding. I like Rodney as I think he plays probably the best game on this on this entire season. I think his only competition in that field is Mama C, and I feel like overall he's probably better than Mama C, and so for that reason I would go with Rodney. And I feel like character wise, he's definitely probably the best character. Also, I think you can make an argument for Mike or Joe just because they're both pretty likable. Um, I think he's definitely probably beats both of them out as the best character on the season. And so again, he's in that Tony position where he's the best character, best player. But because of the fact that he is sort of unlikable sometimes, he's not as like surefire as Tony is in Kaguya. Season 31, I'm gonna go with Jeremy. I like watching Jeremy like succeed in this season. I mean I know everyone's gonna say Wentworth, but I enjoy watching a dominant game as long as there's other contenders and it's not super obvious. And I think the season does a really good job of doing that, where everyone's like, "Oh, the season's back and forth, back," but really like Jeremy's in control every single vote, basically every single vote, except for the Kelly I don't play and nobody was in control of that vote except for Kelly. And so I feel like overall, I just enjoy watching Jeremy dominate this entire season. Season 32, I'm going to go with Ty. As a person, I can enjoy Ty as a very unique cast find. I think as a character, he's probably the best character on this entire season. I think Aubrey beats him out as far as character wise, as far as narrating, but as far as overall person, I think he's overall the best person on this entire season. He's not the best player on this season. That goes to Aubrey, but he's probably in the top five, maybe. I for a second there, I really disliked Ty because he didn't go with Scott and Jason, which who again because I always root for villains. I'm always going for Scott and Jason, and so but when he didn't go with them, one it was a silly game move because then they would have swung Julia over and it would have been a tie vote next time. But yeah, I mean, but overall, I would still go with Ty because out of Michelle, Aubrey, and Ty, and I guess Sydney also, I just enjoy watching Ty the most as a character. Season 33, I'm gonna go with. I actually don't want. I like David, but I don't like David as much as other people like David. I understand. I understand that he's like the robbed or the what the fallen angel of the season, but like, okay, like cool. So that leaves Adam or Jay. I'll go with Jay. I really like him in like Michaela Blindside, and he's like, yeah, I did that. And I think overall he has more. He's just more likable than Adam is in this season. Adam's kind of seen as a weasel and or like kind of a poor player in the season, and I think that Jay plays a pretty good game, although he does make a few mistakes. But those mistakes are just fun to watch in general. Season 34, I have hmm. Season 34 best player. I would go. I mean, it's between Zeke, Andrea, Sarah. Really, for me, as far as like best player, now best character, it's probably between Zeke, Andrea, and Sari. So both the two people that overlap in both those are Zeke and Andrea. I would go with Zeke over Andrea. One, because I just think overall that Zeke has more potential as a character, and I think he plays just as good of a game as Andrea does, and so for that reason, I'm gonna go with Zeke over Andrea in this season 35. I'll go with Ben. I genuinely like Ben this season. Obviously, I don't like that he got that unfair twist by production that may or may not have been rigged for him, and the whole ending of the game isn't. It's kind of a shabby way to end the season, but I'm not gonna lie. In the moment of watching it, it was really fun to watch. Obviously, looking back, it's probably not the most fair way or the most socially impressive way, but it was just fun to watch somebody Ben bomb their way to the end. And so yeah, I'm gonna go with Ben with no remorse. Season 36, I'm going to go with Dom. I like watching Dom. I think Dom plays the better strategical game. Wendell plays the better social game, and it's more fun to watch a better strategical game. And so for that reason, I'm just going to go with Dom. Season 37. I'll go with Christian on this season. He's probably the best narrator of all time, honestly. Just for a single season, he makes this season so easy to understand, and I think that's why his boot and the boots after his boots are kind of hard to explain because of the fact that he's not there to explain them. Like he's not there saying, "Yep, so like this is why I got voted out." Like he's gone, or he's getting blindsided. And so I feel like for that reason, I would like Christian the most in this season. Season 38, I'm gonna go with Ron Clark. I like Ron as a villain this season. I really like Ron being villainous this season. Like I like him being like the other kingpin besides War Dog, and because he gets farther than War Dog, and because the final three is kind of lackluster aside from Gavin, who I really like. But I would take Ron over Gavin as a character, and I think Gavin plays a slightly better game, but Ron has a much better character than Gavin does, and so for that reason, I would put Ron over Gavin as my favorite player from this season. Season 39, I'm gonna go with Missy. I like Missy's aggressiveness, and I like how over the top Missy is as far as like strategy goes, and as far as her overall character. I enjoy watching someone who does not care and who will do anything to win the game and who plays herself out of the game. Those are the best vote outs. It's when someone just plays themselves out of the game. I think overall. And then for season 40, obviously it's Tony. I mean, who else are you going to pick? It's Tony for season 40. He dominates the game. He plays the best game possibly of all time, honestly. I mean, you can make the argument. Definitely against the best competition. And as far as his character isn't that great early on, but I do like his character moments in the pre-merge, like the ladder, and then when Denise idles out Sandra in that episode. Tony's like the Cagayan Tony starts to kind of seep out, come out. And so he holds us down until his Sophie flip when he really turns on the game, and then it just becomes that he's the best character and the best player on this entire season. And so for me, that edges it out. If you guys are still watching, you're crazy, and I love you. And honestly, I mean, thank you so much for the support on the videos. Daily content is continuing. We are going to keep daily content up until when 41 drops, and then we're going to be doing our post game live show as well as our uh, predictions and power rankings podcast later in the week, and then a regular video before the next episode drops. But we're still going to get like bi-daily content, so like every other day or maybe every other day. So we're still going to keep content up when 41 drops, and then after 41 we're getting to that 42, that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if that's it, thank you for watching.